All right, guys. So they took Chris Matthews out. They plugged him in and charged him up and then trotted him out here. He was on MSNBC for like 2 decades, just babbling every night. And then now he's been laying on a beach and doing nothing. But they brought him back out here on Morning Joe on MSNBC. And he's just going to prove how much of a dinosaur he is, right? He's from a different era in politics. The things he believes and says just don't land anymore, right? He's a classic, old school, complete, neoliberal Democrat who just loves making concessions to Republicans. So he's going to talk about how much he loves what Liz Cheney is doing in helping Kamala. Let's watch and I'll break it down.
I'd like to start with you and talk about what we just saw. Two women from completely different backgrounds, completely different points of view, carrying the torch of freedom and democracy together.
Well, Mika, I wouldn't think a few years ago I would ever be singing the praises of a Cheney member of the family, a member of that family. I really did not like the Iraq War, and I didn't like the neocons, and Cheney was leading them all, and he took us into that war, and it killed almost 200,000 people in Iraq, and it served no purpose. They had a bunker, a barrier against Iran, and they got rid of it. Anyway, she is a character almost out of the movies, out of A Man for All Seasons. I've never seen a more heroic figure than Liz Cheney. She lost her state probably forever. She lost her party. She lost her leadership in the Republican House. She could have been on her way to Speaker. It was very probable.
That all happened before she started supporting Kamala. So in other words, the bridge was already burned in the Republican Party. It's not like she was at the zenith of her power in the Republican Party, and she was like, now to do the right thing, I'm going to go the other way. That's not the case. The bridge was already burned. There was already nowhere for her to go. And so she made this decision. More on that in a minute, because he seems to put the most benign, beautiful intentions on her doing this when I am sure that's not the case. Here we go.
She gave it all away in the interest of truth. That's what she stood for. It's amazing to me how few people have gotten behind her, but now one person that's got behind her is Kamala Harris. And those sitting together, those two women, as you say, on that stage is remarkable because there's such courage there from Liz Cheney. And I cannot say anything that would stop me from saying she's been unbelievable. And I think now if they use her for the next 2 weeks, I also want to say something about the Democrats. If you're going to use her, repay her when you get in office.
Oh, no.
Don't just act like you're giving a little nod to a Republican. Clean up some of your act. You've got problems, Democrats.
What does that mean? Pay her back. What does that mean? What does that mean? At no point in his rant is he going to bring up this fact. Liz Cheney voted 92.9% of the time with Trump. He's not going to bring that up. So I have a question for Chris Matthews. Let's say in 8 years, Trump is still alive, a Democrat is running, and Donald Trump wants to endorse that Democrat. Should that Democrat take Donald Trump's endorsement and do campaign events with him? Because this is what's happening now. Now, let's also be clear. It is not like she said, hey, I'm going to endorse Kamala, and by the way, I've changed all of my political opinions. No, it's like she's the same person, but she's endorsing Kamala, right? So you have to understand, I'm not just against Trump because he's Trump and all of the intangible stuff and all the crassness, right? I'm against him because of policy. Because of policy, including the policy of not accepting the peaceful transfer of power, right? But she's 92.9% Trump. Would you accept an endorsement from George W. Bush and run around the country with him? Would you accept an endorsement in 8 years from Trump and run around the country with him? And how deep does this go, right? How deep does this go? Would you accept an endorsement from Netanyahu and run around the country, right? It's like, this is what drives me crazy about this. These people act like politics. Like he said, it's like a movie, right? They act like it's all a game. They act like, you're watching some Hollywood thing. And it's like, no, this is real, like real life shit. And it matters. The policy stuff matters. Liz Cheney was cheering the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Right? Now, by the way, I'm not such a hardliner that I'm saying you can't mention, hey, Liz Cheney supports me. You could do that. The thing I'm against is really the bear hug of not only Liz Cheney, but also Dick Cheney and thanking him for his service and campaigning with her. Because I don't see the benefit of it. I see the benefit of grabbing a Republican who voted for Trump then had their job outsourced because of Trump, and you bring them on stage and they say, I'm a Republican, but he stabbed me in the back, so I'm supporting Kamala. I support that. It's not like I'm against any and all Republican outreach. I'm against the way you do it matters. The way you do it matters. I wouldn't want you campaigning with George W. Bush. I wouldn't want a Democrat in 8 years campaigning with Trump. I wouldn't want her campaigning with Liz Cheney now. And he literally says, pay her back. What does that mean? Presumably what it means is put her in your administration and give her some semblance of power. But if she votes 92.9% of the time with Trump, what you're saying is basically give Trump some sway in your administration. Give somebody who thinks and acts and votes like Trump sway in your administration, right? And then look, it's fair to say she's right about one thing. January 6th was bad. The fake elector slate was bad. Trying to overthrow the election was bad. And I don't want to downplay that. That matters. That matters. But also, let's be clear, she also supported Dick Cheney and George W. Bush stealing an election. She did. That was her dad. Granted, she was very young at the time, but she wasn't against that. She thought, hey, the way that they stole the election was highfalutin. It wasn't, a bunch of yahoos storming the Capitol and doing violence. I'm against that. But they did it in the legal, lawfare kind of way, right? Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida, and Florida was the state that was, in question. The Supreme Court killed the recount and backed Bush and Cheney. Fox News basically called the election before it should have been called. And it's like, hey, as long as you did it on a way that looks like it's on the up and up, I'm fine with it. So it's like, in other words, I just stop making her out to be a hero. As I pointed out, her bridge was already burned with the Republicans. It was already gone. She already got blown out. MAGA already crushed her. And so it was either go on the sidelines or get out of politics and do something else with your life, or, okay, I'll do the old face turn and I'll campaign for a Democrat now. Again, I'm not against her saying I support Kamala, but just the bear hug, the fucking events, the campaigning with her, it's like you're leaning too hard into this. We don't like her as much as you like her, okay? It's that simple. In Washington, they love her. Chris Matthews loves her in mainstream media. We don't love her as much as you love her. We just don't. All right, not done yet.
You don't have all the answers. You got to do much tougher action on the border. You have to get serious about it and come up with a reasonable way of getting people into the country in a reasonable way and let them become citizens in time. But you got to do something. You can't just say I'm with Biden. That's not too good.
I can't. This guy, he's fucking ancient. He has no idea what he's talking about. Does Chris Matthews not know that Biden signed a bunch of executive orders that were super hard line on the border, super hawkish on the border? Is he unaware of that? Is he unaware of the bipartisan bill that was written by a conservative Republican that Democrats supported? It was a bipartisan bill, and Donald Trump made some phone calls and killed it because he said, I think this will help the Democrats, and I don't want to do that. I want to run on this issue. Does he not know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris deported more people, both as a raw number and a percentage, as Donald Trump did? Does he not know that they kept in place Remain in Mexico and Title 42 for a long time during the administration? Does he not know any of this? Does he not know any of this? Unbelievable. Democrats, you need to be more right-wing on the border, even though you already are super right-wing on the border. The main difference between Democrats and Republicans on the border is Republicans want to do a mass deportation program of millions of people, and Democrats don't. But outside of that, the differences are way smaller than anybody would like you to believe. It's one of the areas where they're unfortunately way too close, right? And he's going, no, you need to go even more right-wing on the border. Jesus Christ. All these people with their fucking West Wing brain and their conventional wisdom bullshit. It's like this Liz Cheney bear hugging her is not helping. It is not helping. You think it is, but it's not. Now, thankfully, Kamala is smarter than Chris Matthews. And Kamala has been doing a lot of other very populist stuff right now. We got some ads that have been phenomenal. We're going to cover one of them in a minute. Tim Walz is out there throwing haymakers at not only Trump, but J.D. Vance and Elon Musk. So in some ways, they actually are running a great campaign. But this is the one part that it's like, you got to stop leaning into this. This is not good. This smells like Hillary 2016. Don't do that. Like I said, she's making up for it in other areas, but, Chris Matthews, this is right up his alley. Chris Matthews is not indicative of your average American voter. He's just not even close. Study came out the other day that said Americans want you to run on populist progressive policies, and that's the most popular way to run. That will literally not be digested at all by the idiots like Chris Matthews. And they'll just pretend like, be more of a border fascist and bear hug Liz Cheney some more. And by the way, if Kamala loses, what'll they say? You didn't do enough events with Liz Cheney. Not, hey, maybe that was a bad idea and you shouldn't have done any, right? That's where we're at. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.